Hello and welcome back to Quartzlight, your car brochure channel. Today we'll be looking at the Rover SD1. Welcome back, and if you are into car brochures, please do subscribe. I'm sure you'll find something of interest here. So today's episode, the Rover SD1, produced from 1976 to 1986. Interestingly, the Rover SD1, the SD1 was also its code name. The code name became its production name. SD1 simply means Specialist Division Number 1. It was the specialist division of British Leyland at the time. Number 1 meaning it was the first design from that in-house design team. Today's brochure is quite an early one, so it's showing the original sort of design cues. This is probably from about 77, 78. It is, of course, a British brochure as well. So let's have a look at today's brochure. So here is today's brochure. Yeah, there is a few little age creases on here, but overall it's not too bad. You can guarantee the brochure lasted longer than the car, sadly. So really the story for the Rover SD1 starts in sort of late 60s, early 70s, when they were looking for a replacement for the Triumph 2000 and Rover P6. The Rover P6 had already gained a huge reputation for being a great car. Triumph and Rover both submitted their proposals. Triumph had the Triumph Puma concept. Rover had the Rover P10 concept. They decided to go the route of Rover, and then David Bash headed the design team. Very much a car designed by very exotic cars. It's a beautiful design. It is one of my favourite designs, I must admit. Said to be inspired by such cars as the Ferrari Daytona. Now we've said the code name was SD1, which is true, but there was a code name before that. Original code name for this was actually the Rover RT1. RT meaning Rover Triumph Number 1. But then they changed that because they developed this specialist division of British Leyland, so they changed it to SD1, like I say, specialist division design number 1. But anyway, enough waffle. Interestingly, in this brochure, SD1, I don't think the actual letters SD1 actually appear anywhere on the brochure, and certainly not on the car itself. More commonly known as the Rover 2300, the Rover 2600, or indeed the Rover 3500 with the V8 engine, depending on which engine size we had. We say this brochure is from probably 77, 78. We know it's not a launch brochure from 76 because it was originally launched only as that Rover 3500 with the V8 engine. The other models, the 2300, 2600, didn't come out until November 1977. And that would have been when the Rover P6 and Triumph 2000 was discontinued. But anyway, let's have a look inside the brochure. First of all, we get some nice shots of the three cars. If I can just make that a little bit clearer. So these are the three models, as you can see, the 2300, 2600, 3500. I particularly like this yellow one. There was a yellow one in my area in the 80s. I always remember in this colour. I couldn't tell you which engine size that one had, but whenever I see a yellow one, it always reminds me of that. And then on this particular brochure, as we kind of like go through the pages, it's a little bit of a strange layout, really. Here it's talking about sort of all its awards, the Rover tradition, and it's talking about the designs going back to what looks like 1963. And it's talking about a new tradition. Like I say, it is one of my favourite designs. I think it was a very well designed looking car, a big executive car of course, but certainly not a bland executive car, which was an easy trap for car manufacturers to fall into, I think. And of course, thinking about, I think British Leyland as a whole had some world-class designs. I think they were one of the best design teams. It's just a shame the management team wasn't world-class as well, otherwise I'm sure they still would be around. And then it talks about all the designs that it actually would. A nice little x-ray of the SD1 there. Of course, a big hatchback. One of the reasons they did a hatchback, the design team cleverly saw hatchbacks were becoming the thing to have at the time, so they did do this hatchback or liftback design, which certainly suits the car and makes it a very practical car. Talking about all the awards there, it was a European Car of the Year winner 1977. I think that was for the V8. And it goes on to show all the awards and trophies that it did win as well. Like I said, a great design. The design was never the issue. Unfortunately, it was more build problems. And of course, there was industrial action striking at the time, which didn't help the car either. More images, the new tradition of quality and a new tradition of reliability. They was hoping that this new car would turn things around for British Leyland. Like I said, they did open this specialist division to handle the car. It wasn't one of the last cars to be built in Solihull. Sadly, the reliability and the build quality was sadly lacking, which is a shame. And it's talking about a new tradition of safety as well. Safety, we're talking about the latter half of the 70s. 70s were more and more people were more thinking about safety, and that was becoming more and more of a buying decision. And then it's saying a new tradition of space and comfort. Loved the interior of the SD1. Again, like the outside, it is one of my favourite interiors. A little bit wacky, I guess, in certain places, and a little bit unusual little things, but overall, a very sort of futuristic design, in my opinion. And very clever how they could swap it over for a left or right hand drive version, which we'll have a look at a little bit later as well. And then it's sort of like, well, a little bit, not much of a description on each one, but we will look at what it's saying for each vehicle. So first of all, you've got the smaller engine one, the Rover 2300, still a 6-cylinder engine, no 4 cylinders available at this time for the SD1. But don't forget, they had the Princess, so that had a 1.8, a 2 litre, a 2.2. So that was thought that could compete with the sort of entry-level versions of, say, a Granada or the more expensive Ford Cortina or versions of the Cortina. So they kind of like kept this as a more executive car by doing the base models as a 6-cylinder. We've also got we've gone straight to the 3500. Fair enough. Okay, so we'll do that next. So we're talking about the 3500. It says the outstanding car that set the standard for the new Rover tradition, unmatched in performance and quality. And it's showing the pages, which we'll get to in a moment. And then, of course, the 2600, probably the most popular, really. Everyone really goes on about the V8, but maybe the 2600 was more popular. I know the police surprisingly used the 2600 a lot, sort of the middle range. It's still a fast car, but we always remember the V8, I guess. I think that's what we always think about. This, of course, would have been a bit more economical, cheaper to insure, so probably a good mix of the two. And it's saying the central car in the new range, including many of the award-winning features of the 3500. So we'll look further down the range, and we'll look. It tells in a little bit more detail about each version. So as we turn the page, we can see it's going to start talking about each model independently, starting with the Rover 2300. So we'll have a look at this text before looking at some of the options and standard fitted equipment, as well as the performance. So straight away it's saying the 2300 engine, actual displacement 2350, gives a smooth and effortless performance. It's a 6-cylinder inline power unit of completely new design, developing 123 brake horsepower. At the same time, it's refined, fully tested engine that gives both a faster, smoother performance than its competitors, many of which only have 4 cylinders. It also has the tractability that copes with traffic in town use. And then, like I say, if we move over, it starts talking about some of the equipment levels. So we've got a few little pictures and graphics of the various little parts before it actually starts talking about the standard fitted refinement. The video, of course, you can read some of this standard fitted equipment that this base model came with. We'll also look at some of the options, so you can get things like a 5-speed manual or an automatic, power steering, tinted windows, seat belts, blah blah blah, you know, things you would expect to be on a car today, of course. Certainly not well equipped by today's standard, but like I say, you could get nice little things like a sunroof, you know, front fog lamps, etc. Performance wise, this base model 0 to 60 11.5 seconds, again pretty slow by today's standard, but it's doing 25 miles per gallon with a top speed of 114. Remember, this is like, you know, probably 76, 77, 78, you know, so it's reasonably good performance for the time, but of course by today's standard it is quite a slow car. So then we move on to the Rover 2600, as it says here, a new dimension of performance and comfort. So let's have a quick look at what it's saying here. So it's saying here, like the 2300, the new 2600 is equipped with a totally new engine, meticulously designed to create a stimulating performance without any loss of fuel economy. So it's saying it's doing 136 brake horsepower at 5,000 RPM. It's saying the difference lies in the stroke of the crankshaft, the piston specifications and the tuning of the twin carburetors. Again, if we move over to the other side, it's giving us some sort of glimpses of the inside, a white deep carpeted boot. Love the colour of the interiors on some of these older SD1s. We've got a 5-speed gearbox. You know, 5-speed gearbox was still not that common at this time. And it's saying we've got complete passenger comfort. They do look very nice seats, I must admit. So it's saying for standard equipment, again, if you need to pause this to have a look at it, you can do. And these are standard equipment additionally on top of the 2300, of course. And then the optional extras, so we can get an auto transmission, power steering. I say power steering, it would have been quite a heavy car to drive, I think, without power steering, particularly when you're trying to park it. Tinted windows, power operated front and rear windows, rear seat belts, the alloy wheels, metallic paint, sunroof, seat facing upholstery could be in leather, although I prefer it non-leather if I was choosing it. Performance wise, 0 to 60 is now 10.7 seconds, so a bit more respectable. Top speed of 119, so that's very nice top speed for this time. That is a pretty quick car really for the times, and even today it can probably keep up with modern traffic. Miles per gallon, 26 miles per gallon, so that was kind of like a nice version, I think, the 2600. A nice mix of economy but still being reasonably good performance. Come to the car that everyone wanted then, and as a collector's car will want now, the V8 3500. And I think particularly from this side view, particularly this sort of front end, you can really see Ferrari Daytona in that with that light. I think personally, I don't know if I'm just seeing things, but that's kind of what I see when I look at that. But overall, a very attractive car. Like I say, one of my favourite designs for sure. Saying here, so much has been written and said in praise of the new Rover 3500 that it is difficult not to think of it as the most significant new car in Britain today. Time and again, favourable comments come back to the quite extraordinarily linking of big V8 powered performance with a standard of fuel economy simply unexpected in a large car. This is the result of a combination of unique design and engineering concepts in the new Rover. A special aid towards maximum performance and minimum petrol consumption is the 3500's electronic ignition system. This reduces the need for the engine tuning and ensures that the V8 engine is always running at its maximum efficiency. There are fewer moving parts in the new ignition system, less risk of failure or plug fouling, and the engine can use the extra sparkling efficiency to achieve a higher rate of revs, up to 6,000 RPM. The Rover 3500 is obviously an extremely satisfying car to drive. That pleasure is enhanced by the inclusion of power-assisted steering as a standard feature, giving effortless manoeuvrability and responsive handling to the car. A feature of the 3500 is a central door locking device. This enables the driver to lock and unlock all 5 doors in a single action. The philosophy behind the new range of Rovers can be summed up in 3 parts. The setting of the highest possible motoring and safety standards, the achievement of those standards by the use of elegantly simple design and sound engineering principles, and an attention to detail that leaves no area of the car less than perfect. It then gives us an image of some of the interior. Not a great interior shot, to be honest with you, although we will just come back to that in a moment. And those nice seats again, before we get to some of those standard features. Again, I'm not going to read all this, but this is standard features above and beyond the 2300 and 2600. Less options now as a lot of it is standard, so we've got options as auto transmission, Dunlop de Novo wheels and tyres, cast alloy wheels, rear seat belts, seat facing upholstery and leather, and that sunshine roof again. Performance wise, of course, we're up. So 0 to 60 in a very respectable 8.9 seconds, touring miles per gallon 23.6. And it doesn't actually show the top speed on here, which is unusual, isn't it, as it showed it on the other two. And like I said we'd come back to this picture. It's not a great picture of the interior though, but it had this very strange vent in front of the passenger, which was very strange. You can't really see it too clear on this picture, so I'm just going to bring out a later brochure that shows it a little bit better. So this is a later brochure, actually from 1983. Some people actually refer to these as the Series 2 because they did some updates on them, and you can see, you know, we've just got a black bumper now, and the interior's got a bit more futuristic with all these lots of lights and displays, and in fact the dash goes longer on these later ones. So from, I think the Series 1 was from 76 to 82, and then this was out after 82. This brochure from 83. So, but I wanted to show you this purely because it shows this centre ventilation system in it. Now the reason for this was it was a clever interior design, which we also looked at other cars like the Discovery had a similar sort of idea really. The idea of easily being able to change from right to left hand drive. Obviously you could just unclip this and put a new binnacle here, and you pretty much already got it set up, because this little hole matches up where the steering column went in. So your steering column just went in there, that then become the vent. Yes, you've got a glove box here, but you've got a glove box here as well. So it's a very clever design to make it a very simple and easy way to change it over from left and right hand drive. So what looks like a very unusual and not very clever place to put the ventilation system in is actually a clever way to swap that over. I just thought you might want to see that on a later brochure. And you can just about make out that little vent there, you could swap it over, but like I said, it's not a great picture, is it? But anyway, let's move on. And again, it goes through the model features. We kind of like looked at most of them. I know some people might want to see every little feature on this, so I will zoom in on it, and you can always pause it if you do want to take it in any great detail. And the 2600. And then finally the big boy, the 3500. And then we get a lovely little graphic, don't we, of the dimensions again, showing off that great design. Before finally the back page is showing the ultimate Rover, the Rover with all the little extras on top of the range model. I just thought I'd throw this in at the end. It's the back of the 1983 Austin Rover brochure, just to remind that these big Rovers were also used for European touring car championships. So there we go, the Rover SD1, a great car, unfortunately marred by a lot of issues, very mixed build quality, a lot of detailing problems. That interior looked fabulous, but it was a really easily worn interior. The early cars had a lot of issues with flaking paint, and it's a shame. Even the cars that they sent out to the press on launch had, you know, build quality issues. You'd think they would at least make them ones perfect, so the press got a mixed view of it as well. Yeah, the build quality did improve over the years, but unfortunately once you get a little bit of a mixed image about your build quality, it kind of like stays with you. And unfortunately that's how we remember a lot of these big Rovers. Not many around anymore because, you know, they did rust away and fall apart, but you occasionally see, you know, really nice ones, and you're reminded what a beautiful design they were. Any memories of the car, please jot that in the comments. Many more car brochure videos to come, so thank you for subscribing. If you've not already done so, please do subscribe and like and comment, and we'll see you very soon. Take care and goodbye.